So an old fashioned, essentially, is going to be whiskey, it's going to be sugar, and it's going to be bitters. When it comes to making a good old fashioned, there are a number of factors. Number one, I want it not too sweet. I know people say that a lot, but it is so true in the old fashioned. Number two, the spirit that I use. I want the proof to be up there. I don't want an 80 proof, I don't want an 86 proof whiskey. That's great for shaken whiskey cocktails, but I gotta get up to the mid 90s on my proof, or even 101. This is a spirit forward cocktail. So, the first thing you're gonna use in an old fashioned is bitters. Bitters are the spice rack of your bowl. I love the spice that comes with Angostura bitters. So I'm gonna use 3 dashes in there. So this is going to give you that punch with that spice that's been mixed. It's 200 years old. This is the most tried and true one that there is. How much bitters do you wanna use? That's up to each person. That is always different. Next is the sugar. Traditionally, people would use sugar cubes back in the day and muddle that until that was dissolved. Nowadays, we have syrups. I'm gonna use a Demerara syrup. This is a 2-part sugar to 1 part water by weight concoction. We say to use 1/4 ounce in this. I don't go all the way up to that 1/4 ounce line because I don't want it to be too sweet. Now, the argument on the whiskey, you can do bourbon or do you want rye? We can do either. Bourbon's gonna be a little more sweet, so people who want a little more kick and spice are gonna choose rye. I'm gonna use a rye right now. This is 90.4 proof. It's probably the lowest end of what I would go with on this one. How much whiskey are we gonna put in here? We're gonna do 2 ounces. We're gonna fill it up. I wanna get to that meniscus so it just goes right up over the edge and boom. We have all of our ingredients in here. What do we need? Ice. Vanilla ice. We're gonna stir it. We're not shaking it. We want the slow dilution on there. We don't wanna make this a water whiskey cocktail. When I put this on your table, I want you to see a beautiful block of ice that has not been melted down at all. We have a stamp because branding of ice has become very vogue in the current climate. We got the PB for Pebble Bar here. Once I've stamped that, there's gonna be water at the bottom of that. I wanna dump that water out. So we have our old fashioned. If I've done it well, it's perfectly diluted, not too sweet, already cold on that block of ice. So every old fashioned you get should come with an orange twist. What we do and some other places do is we also add a lemon twist. Ready to go? I give you our old fashioned.
An old fashioned has to start with muddled fruit. A lot of the young bartenders now put the cherry and the orange, the sugar and the bitters in it, and they do a twist, and you don't get the flavors of the fruit the way you should be. If you gave me an old fashioned that didn't start with muddled fruit, I'd send it back. So we're gonna take our cherry, we're gonna put the cherry in the glass, and take a slice of orange. We're gonna take some bar sugar. Bar sugar is a quick dissolving sugar. Doesn't matter if you mix it with cold water, hot water, it dissolves instantly. Now we're gonna take our Angostura bitters, do a couple of dashes in there, get your muddler. The fruit has to be macerated. Then you're gonna pour your bourbon in. Woodford is an extremely smooth bourbon. And then you're gonna put a splash of club soda on top just to cut the sweetness. And then you're gonna put some ice cubes in. And there you go, there's your old fashioned.
Modern tropical bars usually tend to have really fun, unexpected ingredients. Today, I'm gonna be making the Spam Fried Rice Old Fashioned. We're gonna be starting off with Angostura bitters. Every Old Fashioned should have Angostura bitters or some sort of bitters substitute. Brings a little bit more balance to the sweet and the spirit that you're using. So we're switching up the traditional sugar base by using a toasted rice syrup that we make in-house, emulating the flavors of fried rice, as well as a little bit of cane to give it a sweet undertone, but not an overt sweetness that you get from traditional simple syrup. Now for the fun stuff. In a tiki bar like Paradise Lost, we love split basing our spirits. Split basing is a technique where instead of using just one spirit, we're kind of playing the game. Instead of whiskey, we're using a little bit of cane as well as a little bit of mezcal. Clarin is going to be a cane distillate from Haiti. Really beautiful, grassy, and selenic. Now for the star of the show, this is going to be our Spam infused mezcal. At Paradise Lost, the way that we get our Spam infusion is to cube up the Spam, fry it up, make sure that you get those little bits that are burnt on the ends and parts of char that you're missing from whiskey, and then just let it sit overnight inside some mezcal, strain it out, and then you have your Spam mezcal. Time to get cracking. And when you're stirring, you're really trying to focus on dilution, chilling, as well as keeping the clarity of the actual base that you're using. In my head, I have very specific counts of how many revolutions I want to stir for in order to dilute the proper amount down from what the starting proof is. For a base spirit that's around 40% alcohol, you kind of want to stir it around 60 revolutions. That gives it just about an ounce of dilution per cocktail. It gives you a way of elongating the drink, but still being able to taste all the flavors that are inside of your cocktail. This is a rocks glass. the traditional serve of an old-fashioned. You have a really beautiful big ice cube in there so that it slows down the dilution. Large ice cubes will have less surface area, so that means that your drink's gonna water down much slower and much less. Just gonna give it a little bit of flair by stamping it with the Paradise Lost logo. Freshly grated nutmeg imparts a really beautiful aroma to the drink. Weird is always good. Let's get weird. I think we should be more weird.
Personally, I really like the kind of steakhouse old-fashioned with the muddled cherries, but in order to make an old-fashioned efficient, you have to be a little bit quicker. We're gonna start with like 2.5 ounces of Misguided whiskey. It's a rye and bourbon blend. It's delicious. We free pour because it's a lot quicker to free pour. And I'm gonna do about 2 bar spoons full of simple syrup. You don't want it to be too sweet. Douse it in some Angostura bitters. And you just give it an orange peel. Boom, boom, boom. Old fashioned.
I like to keep my old fashions pretty classic. I mean, it's in the name. It's one of the original cocktails. When it comes to making old fashions, you always want to start off with your bitters. I like to do 3 heavy dashes of Angostura. I like to do 3 dashes of orange bitters as well. The orange bitters adds more of a citrus orange flavor without the acid. So you'll see a lot of people use straight granulated sugar. I don't like my old fashions with texture. I like mine pretty smooth, and I like mine to have body. So I always used a 2-to-1 rich syrup made with an unrefined sugar. And because I work with so many different chefs from all different backgrounds of cuisine, so I always use different sugars made all over the world. The one that I'm gonna be using right here is gonna be a Chinese slab sugar. So we're gonna do a scant or just below a 1/4 ounce of 2-to-1 syrup. For our base spirit today, we're actually gonna do a split base, which means we're gonna use 2 different spirits. We're gonna be using rye whiskey today, which is 95 proof, which just means a little bit hotter. You have a little bit more of a peppery flavor profile to it rather than your vanilla, caramelly notes of bourbon. And one of the original cocktails that you may have seen a lot that is derived from the old fashioned is a Sazerac. So the original old fashioned Sazerac was made with cognac. And so as kind of a nod to it, and just because I really love cognac, I'm gonna be doing 3/4 of an ounce. And then we're gonna add some ice cubes to our Yari mixing glass. I always try to make sure that there's a bit of ice peeking out above the liquid. So if I'm stirring it and it goes below the ice line, that means it will dilute too fast. So now we're gonna pour. So I'm just expressing the orange peel as it's pouring in there, so it kind of gets the orange and lemon flavors into the cocktail a little bit more. You'll see a lot of people kind of wipe the edges. I don't like that because it just gets your fingers sticky, so I kind of just keep the orange oils and lemon oils on top and just stick them right in and enjoy.
At the Plaza Hotel, we do a muddled old fashioned. An old fashioned doesn't have to be muddled fruit, but we thought that it would appeal to a greater audience. For my old fashioned, I'm gonna start here with a sugar in the raw that I use. It's got a bigger grain to it, but it really muddles up really nice. I use 1 slice of orange and 1 Luxardo cherry. And then I'm going to give it a little muddle here and add some Angostura bitters, so 3 good dashes. A lot of other bartenders use different spirits in an old fashioned, but ours is made the classic way with bourbon. I give it a nice little stir, and then I'm gonna strain it onto a large ice sphere. We freeze solid blocks of ice, and we have this wonderful ice ball maker at the Plaza. It makes a beautiful spear right in front of the guest's eyes. And a round ice cube has very little surface, so it melts even slower than a block of ice. So we have a stamp. It's got our logo on it. Finish it with an orange twist. This releases the oils over the drink. And a Luxardo cherry because it's delicious. This is the classic garnish for an old fashioned at the Plaza Hotel. It's like a piece of old times in a glass.
I think the biggest thing for old fashions is that they have to be balanced. The idea behind an old fashioned is that you're really just taking whiskey and letting it shine by adding small amounts of flavoring ingredients, but it's not supposed to hide the main ingredient, which at the end of the day is the whiskey. We start with a little Angostura bitters. I think this is where most bartenders get into trouble. I only use a teaspoon of Demerara syrup, and I think the majority of bartenders out there make the mistake of putting more simple syrup or some kind of Demerara in there, which makes the drink cloyingly sweet and way too round. It almost overpowers the rye and kind of knocks it off balance. And then we're gonna do Rittenhouse rye. So to make it old fashioned, I find that 2.5 ounces of the rye is really where we want to be. So I'm going to stir this up really, really good, get it nice and cold, and then I'm just going to simply strain this out over a nice large rock. I'll just express it over the top, get those orange essences on the top of the drink, simply slide it down the side, and there is your Rittenhouse Rye Old Fashioned. Enjoy.
I work in a pretty high volume bar, and even in a nightlife setting, old fashions are definitely in the top selling cocktails. So I'm gonna go in with 3 heavy dashes. Angostura is one of the most staining ingredients of all time. Next is simple syrups. I like to build in the glass for an old fashioned or a stirred down cocktail because it's faster. And it gives the same quality cocktail as if you were to build it in a mixing glass. And then our final ingredient is going to be Old Forester. So I'm gonna go in with 2 ounces. This is 86 proof bourbon, so you don't wanna knock someone out just off of 1. You want to be responsible, especially when you're serving alcohol, right? I do have large cubes here, so we're just gonna place that down into our cocktail. And once again, we're gonna go in 2 spoons and give her maybe 20 to 30 stirs. An orange peel complements the notes of the bourbon really nicely, whereas a lemon is gonna complement the notes of rye. Peel side out. And I really do like to wipe it around the side of the glass so that when you pick up the glass and bring it to your face, you smell the peels. That's our old fashioned.
This is my version of the old fashioned drink. It's kind of like Japanese style tea and cacao old fashioned. Let's make it. Ice. The Los Expro Tobara, 30 ml. And white cacao liqueur, 15 for the sweetness. And a little Japanese whiskey for body. So this is a bitter element and the main kind of like tea flavor profile. So this moment I'm using the Kyoto Uji matcha. The color is totally different. It's very black and less bitterness. It's a beautiful balance of the bitterness. Yes. This is like a natural Angostura bitters. Strain it. I'm trying to stir. Also gentle. This is a hot coconut water, 30 ml. I don't want to get super cold temperature, and of course no bubble, but for the tea, so you need to get the creamy like texture of the Whipple matcha. It's a 2 element and combined together. You get a lot of aroma from beautiful matcha and beautiful foam. Perfect. So on the top is a Hana Hojiso. It's a shiso flower. Each flower has shiso flavor. After a cup of sip, take a bite and drink. Enjoy.
The Old Fashioned is a really easy drink to learn as a home bartender. If I did it, anyone can. I'm going to take just a little bit of sugar. You want probably about a teaspoon. This is one of those things that over time you can figure out what you like or what someone else likes in terms of the sweetness of it. I'm going to use just a couple dashes of these Angostura bitters, which is going to give the drink a really good complexity. And then I am going to take just a little bit of water and dump that in just to give a teensy bit more liquid to mix in with the sugar. Then you can take a muddling stick or a spoon or whatever it is to get that sugar nice and melted up. I like to muddle in the glass just because I like doing fewer dishes. I'm gonna throw in some ice because again, we love a chilled cocktail. Let's throw in just a little bit of that, which looks good. Let's just a little bit more there. You just wanna get it to where it is mixed up. You know what, that's looking a little light. I might toss in just a little bit more of this. I pour until the ancestors tell me to stop on this one. And the Luxardo cherries are worth the investment. They are a little bit more expensive, but they last a really super long time in the syrup. I'm gonna take a bit of this orange and rim it around the glass just to give it a little bit of a flavor. And then I'm just gonna rub this to activate the orange flavor, drop it in, give it one final little stir, and there you go, my home old fashioned.
Some people order old fashions at a neighborhood bar. I like to be fully transparent. In a neighborhood bar, we don't have turbinado sugar. So I say, I can make you an old fashioned, but I'm gonna use simple syrup. Is that all right? And most people say it's fine, but then occasionally you get the person that's like, oh, I'll just take a shot of Fireball and a Bud Light instead, as if that's like a normal juxtaposition. We don't have space for mixing glasses, and it's such an infrequently ordered cocktail that those mixing glasses that are super delicate, they break, and it's not worth it. For me, I just build it right in the glass. So I start with a couple dashes of Angostura bitters. One of the benefits of using simple syrup is that you don't need to put a splash of club soda or water in it. The only reason people don't love that is because it's a little sweeter, but it's fine. For building in the glass, I just put everything in first and then I add the ice. Probably like 3 cubes of ice. This is a blend of an Irish whiskey and a rye. It is 80 proof, but it's so smooth and it finishes with a little bit of that pepper, but it's not overpowering. When people use high proof alcohol in high volume bars, you're just kind of asking for trouble. Also, you don't make money if you get them too drunk too fast. And then I just do a little twist of orange, just so that you get the aroma of it, because especially with the simple, it's sweet enough that I don't muddle fruit. I don't waste my time with all of that. And the way that this is done, that last sip is going to be your sweet sip, which is going to make you want to order that next drink. So this is my old fashioned. All right, cheers.
I give you one of my favorite cocktails.
I mean, it's literally, this is the best whiskey. This is amazing.
Yeah, so I probably put in a little bit too much bourbon.